Ah, lovely Yorkshire. With Fully Charged heading up north, we couldn't resist the chance to visit one of its most famous villages to see how they're leading the charge to make the TV industry more sustainable.
Robert,
Yeah.
do you reckon you'd ever go back on TV?
Well, I mean, if they let me kind of really bang on endlessly about, electrification of ground transport, renewable energy, clean technology, yeah, maybe.
Okay, so like on a continuing drama then?
A what?
Yeah, like a continuing drama, like Emmerdale.
What? The mainstay of British TV production company ITV's Yorkshire Dales-based continuing drama, Emmerdale?
Yeah, the very same.
Oh, yeah!
Well, we're behind the scenes at Emmerdale.
And this is the Fully Charged show.
You can see the Fully Charged show in real life at our exhibitions around the world. Fresh from the success of our UK South show, Fully Charged Live finally heads north. Click just here to get your tickets today.
So when we think about why does the TV industry need to decarbonise, every industry needs to decarbonise and we're no different. There is a huge amount of potential for our impacts in terms of how we can influence our supply chain. Anecdotally, I've heard that the TV industry is worth something along the lines of $200 billion a year. So the spend power that we have that we could influence with is phenomenal.
I think it's really important that climate-related issues find their way into our episodes because the show is trying to be representative of our communities and the things that are at the heart, the matters, the issues that are at the heart of our community. And I think right now, sustainability and the lifespan of the planet is hugely topical and significant. So why wouldn't we want to try and access that and help in some way?
The topic of sustainability has been involved pretty much from day one. They've been trialling a lot of new things. There's a real spirit of innovation, happy to try new ways of working as well. What's unusual for a show like Emmerdale is you can do short, medium and long-term planning, which is quite unusual in our industry. But yeah, they've been at the forefront of sustainable production for a long, long time. Still lots of work to do. So how do we decarbonise our fleet? How do we look at clean power? How do we build our sets, things like that. But yeah, they're well on the way with their journey. And I think that can be a real beacon of hope for lots of other shows to take a lead from.
Unless you're camera nerds like us, you might not think too much about how your favourite TV show gets created. After all, the role of production is often to disguise what goes on behind the scenes so that you're totally immersed in another world without the illusion being shattered. But production, much like any business, has a carbon footprint, and one that isn't insignificant given the sheer volume of TV that's now being created. But fortunately, things are starting to change.
So on a show-by-show basis, we're really blessed, I think, in the TV industry, especially in the UK. We've had a toolkit in place called Albert. Viewers might have seen the little badge of honour that we get at the end of shows that have been through their process, and that allows us to get a brilliant amount of data. We can get some real insight, so we know where the hot topics are. It shows us where the biggest impact areas are that we need to focus on as well. But it also shows our progress, hopefully, and shows how we can have impact and really decarbonise the industry.
Albert is a UK-based sustainability initiative that is designed to help the film and television industry in this country to decarbonise across a whole range of things like energy use, transportation and waste reduction. And they have a CO2 calculator that helps companies like ITV who work here to reduce their CO2 output.
So the production on Emmerdale is split between the studios in the middle of Leeds and here at the actual village of Emmerdale. On their outdoor sets, they've trialled batteries to replace diesel generators, which they hope to use more of in the not too distant future. And naturally, there is a lot of toing and froing between the sets, with the cast and crew moving between the two locations.
And they're now moving between the two locations a lot of the time in electric vehicles, more and more. And that is the aim, is that they'll be fully electrified. Even the crew vans and the equipment vans are electric now. And of course, you need a charger on location. And here is a charger. This is a functioning charger, but it's actually also part of the set. just to make electric car charging normal in Emmerdale. So one of the things I was very aware of in my long career in the television industry was how hot television lights were. It was the bane of my life, because so you go in a TV studio and everyone's in like summer wear, shorts and t-shirts, because TV studios got so hot because the lights used an enormous amount of power and produced an enormous amount of heat, which basically was wasted. Then in around 2015, 2016, that changed when the TV industry adopted LED lights like the ones you can see behind me. And they are not hot. And not only are they not hot, they have experienced something around an 80% reduction in energy use because of these lights. They are so much better, they use so much less energy, and they're not so hot. So I'm here in the props department at the Emmerdale studios, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here, but everything that they possibly can recycle, they do. Everything that they can use again, they do. There's been a really big initiative about this. A lot of the sets are actually made of cardboard, not wood, but even the wooden ones, when they're taken apart, they're recycled and used again.
It seems crazy now, but years ago, reams and reams of scripts were printed on paper every single day of filming. Emmerdale, in their Albert-accredited studio, have swapped out paper for iPads for a completely paperless set, saving literally millions of sheets of paper every year.
But this isn't just about operations. Continuing dramas have an enormous part to play in our culture. They can have wildly dramatic storylines, things like helicopters crashing into village halls during weddings, things that you just wouldn't expect from a rural community in Yorkshire. And yet at the same time, they can tackle very, very important issues, things like mental health, domestic violence, LGBTQIA+ rights. And so surely, given that climate change impacts just about everyone, they could start tackling sustainability in their storylines too.
I think we have a responsibility as a global broadcaster, as a studios business, but also as Emmerdale locally to Leeds. We have a responsibility to tackle stories that are hugely significant and important for our communities. Sustainability is something that we try to embed by design from very early on in the process, and I think it's really important that stories and sustainability have an authenticity to them. Everybody can see when we've tried to embed sustainability into a storyline as opposed to when we tried to shoe it in as a kind of ongoing concern. And I think we maintain our integrity as a show, and also the integrity of the matter, the issue that we're raising, when it's an organic process.
Emmerdale have covered a really broad spectrum of sustainability stories in various episodes. Things like plastic pollution, to installing solar panels, to things like this community garden and other sustainable farming techniques as well. But they've also done much more subtle things like not using plastic bags in the shop or mentioning public transport. And I wonder if that's a much more engaging and positive way to talk about some of these subjects, maybe more effective than sharing often doom and gloom and polarising news stories. But I'm curious to know how the audience have responded, because do they care about sustainability as much as we do here on the Fully Charged show?
The audience have responded great. We've told some really important stories in recent history around climate change. And I think it is tackling, as you say, it's that tackling that what are the things that we can do that we can normalise as everyday behaviour, so that can become part of our culture. Things like recycling, the clothes swap, we've got lots of evidence of that around the village, the electrical vehicles, all the different things that we can bring into our characters' kind of personalities and behaviours. We have something called the Green Guarantee. So every single episode has to have at least one moment of sustainability action. And that's something that we make as a kind of internal Green Guarantee promise. So for a director to actually complete an episode, we have to have found that one moment. So they have to find whether that's something that's scripted or not scripted, something that comes through an organic conversation on the set between the actor and the director. But it's a promise we make. So it's a commitment that we made internally to say every single episode is going to have at least one moment of positive action, positive change.
So things really have changed since I started working in television, and what ITV have done is incredible over the last few years. But I've got a feeling it's just the start of a really long journey towards a more sustainable way of making television.
For me, I think the future is about looking at how we travel, how we can make that more sustainable, both on screen and off screen. But also looking at the technology around things like a wind technology, looking at solar technology. Could we see the Emmerdale set develop over the next 5-10 years to, have a different feel and look and environment, but something that is very future facing and very sustainable and will give the show longevity, but also signals the longevity of life itself.
Yeah, ultimately, if we're thinking about what does success look like for ITV, and Emmerdale's very much part of that, having our corporate net zero targets in place are really useful. We want to be a net zero business by 2030, which is in the not too distant future. So having that endpoint, that goal to work towards is really useful. Some really exciting stuff happening with virtual production, and that allows a production team to basically create and build a set virtually and without hardly any physical materials, and therefore hardly any transport emissions, hardly any waste comes out of that. Really exciting. I think there's a lot of potential from the analysis that we've done through some trials to potentially avoid some of the overseas travel for some of our drama shows, for example. It depends on the show, it depends on what are the needs of that particular show, and every show's different, but it's another tool in the toolbox.
Do you know what I think? Imogen, let me explain what I think. Is that any one of these actions that ITV are taking and the Emmerdale crew are taking probably doesn't amount to much, but when you join them all together, it really starts to have an impact, and that's why I'm really impressed with it. They've really thought through all the aspects of how they make television, how they move people about, how they communicate with each other, and it's gradually just starting to make an impact, starting to lower their carbon footprint, if nothing else. It's a slightly more sustainable industry.
Well, and I think that's the really interesting thing, is that yes, we're talking about a production company, but this is a blueprint for how companies in general can really embed sustainability into everything that they do and make a little bit of difference.
Yeah. So on that note, I think we should say that's all we've got time for. If you have been.
Thanks for watching.
And we're just going to go in and have another pint. See you soon. After you, madam.
Oh, thank you.